This conference will now be recorded.
All right, as always, everything we're going to be talking about is for educational purposes only, and nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. So I wonder which stock we're going to talk about first. Not that it's already up or anything, but Roku. So $13.50 within its range today, which is just absolutely incredible. I mean, it's just one of those days where it is. I mean, you want to talk about an exception. This isn't only an exception, but it's like an exception that has another exception attached to it. All right, so let's just talk about what we got going on so far. So we already know there's buying. I'm not really worried about buying at this point just because of the fact that it's just continuously going up. I want to ask you a question, though. For a stock that's moved $13.50, for it to trigger, what's the trigger going to look like? Out of curiosity, what is the trigger going to? Yeah, it is not going to be a little trigger. Has anyone seen a trigger to the downside in Roku yet today? At any point, any time, has anybody in any way whatsoever seen a trigger point come into Roku? Because I've been looking, and I can't wait to see it because it's gonna come. It's gonna come back to reality. But guess what, guys? It's not there. So anyone I understand, there's certain points where you're gonna try to jump the gun a little bit, and you're gonna, try, and that's just, part of trading because everyone right now is trying to pick the top of it. But this hasn't been one trigger. I mean, to the point where just look. It's been nothing but just buying and smooth movements towards that upside. So we all know that 73 is the spot that we're going to be expecting, once we get our pullback to come underneath that 73 point. But guess what? Don't try to jump the gun. It is an exception. At no point has it not been an exception. Let me ask you another question, because a lot of times we don't actually just take common sense into play. When was the last time at 1:30 I started a meeting and a stock was trading over 100,000 shares per minute that wasn't a quant stock? Can anybody remember that? Please, I would just love, does anyone remember at any point in the past, I'm going to say 2 months, a stock at a 130 showing us trading over 100,000? Apple on Christmas. It's been forever. So you got to understand something, guys. It's not in any way, at any point, has it stopped being an exception. It's going to continue on its way until we get that. And when the time comes, believe me, you're not going to say, well, is this a trigger? Is it, should we be taking this to the short side? You're going to see it happen. Okay. So as we know, first of all, 80 has just an absurd amount of buying that's come into it. So 80 put a giant up arrow on that level, because right now, coming up to the highs right now, 82.50, that's not even close to the amount that this thing needs to move above that 80 level based off the amount of times that we saw buying at 80. But it still needs a proper pullback before we would even think about that. So we're gonna analyze the crap out of this when we go into class on, in the anticipation side of things. But guys, just wait for the trigger. It's not, you can't force a trade to happen. You got to wait for it, for it to show you that it's time to happen. And remember, the trigger on a stock that's moved $13.50 is not going to be 15 cents. It's not going to be 20 cents. It's also not going to be 100,000 shares. It's going to be gigantic. Okay, we even said before I went to lunch, we talked about it needed 300,000 shares. To this point, anyone see a trigger to the downside with 300,000 shares? No, didn't happen. Has not happened. So guess what? We have to sit there and we have to wait and be patient for it to come. Because when it comes, guys, believe me, all the waiting and all the patience, it's going to be completely worth it. So we know what we're going to be doing with that. Another stock that I really like this afternoon is ATI. So I did like it until that just happened. But still, I still do like it. So we have a pretty decent buying around that 150 level, not only from the first time, but if we come back over here, you can see nice little burst at 150. So the fact that it just pulled back like this, that's perfectly fine. As long as we hold this this consolidation, really 115, as long as we hold up above that and we stay within this consolidation, still has the variables for us to be able to get a trigger to break back above that 150. We're going to start with 175 because it's a little bit of a false breakout above this double top that we'd have there. And a lot of times you do see these cheaper stocks give that one last time, that false breakout, just to sell off on everybody before they bring it back down. So I'm going to start with 175 as as our price target. And then just keep in mind, it needs a trigger. You cannot take a trade without a trigger as much as you want to, as much as you think you know where the stock is going to go. And that's where the problem actually lies, is that we know where the stock has to go, so we want it to happen right now. But you got to understand something. Stocks do not move on our time. They do not care about us. When it's time for them to move, they will let us know. And we just, we haven't seen that yet. And in multiple things. And then BABA, obviously, we're going to throw BABA in here because we're talking about Chinese stocks. It's very smooth. The volume is actually very, very light compared to what I would expect it to be. Just kind of, just with a sympathy trade coming into Roku, just being in that same type of, both, being from China and all. So, would expect a lot more. Yes, I know the huge ass prints at 179, which we're pulling back from right now, which is actually pulling back, compared to what Roku has been doing. But another one's pretty smooth today. I mean, it did sit, in a pretty crappy consolidation for a while, but then after about 12:30, we started to start breaking out, and it's actually not terrible from what we're seeing in there. So we're definitely going to throw BABA on our list as well. Other than that, guys, the volume's really being taken, obviously, by Roku right now. I mean, Roku is the hot stock of the day. Everybody's watching it, and you got to remember something. When everybody's watching it, it turns into an exception. When it's got 100,000 shares being traded after 1:30, which is just unheard of for us as of lately, it's a big exception. Wait for the trade. When the trade comes, the trade's going, you will see it. It's not going to, be out of nowhere and all of a sudden just slowly come back down $10. Not going to happen like that. We're going to see that release coming back. Other than that, like I said, not really seeing too much else going on out there besides those three. Anything else out there that I missed? One thing that, I suggest, for everyone to start doing is you just got to kind of just look at things sometimes. If a stock's still trading 100,000 shares after noon, okay, guess what? It's an exception, without a shot. So Oxy's an interesting one. It really just never got any type of real traction. We got some good volume that came into the beginning. It started pulling back down. It was a decent move, but it's moved $1. Honestly, if you're looking for a longer term type trade, take a look at Oxy, but as a day type trade, I just don't see anything there that I have any type of interest. Its personality is just crap. It takes long, and we've seen that. Don't get me wrong. We've seen that over, since we've been watching it, that it takes a long time for it to really develop. So, that's something that we certainly need to put into our variables. If everyone's watching it, wouldn't you expect market makers to fake a bunch of people out? Absolutely, because guess what's going to happen? Okay, when a stock goes up $13.50, is that not faking people out? Think about retail. Number one thing retail thinks when a stock moves up this much is it can't go anymore. Okay, and then they start to see, and then they get, it moves up another $1, then it moves up another $2, and then they get in and they start chasing it longer. And those people are making great money today. If you hit buy on Roku, you are in the money. You are having a great day. But guess what's gonna happen? So you have those beautiful positions, and you're making all this money. And then guess what happens? Well, you know what? It doesn't work out so well in the end, because what they're going to end up doing is they're going to take this thing down. Don't get me wrong. I'm bullish on Roku, without a doubt. I mean, the amount of times that it hit 80, and this thing's got a long time to go. But guess what? A lot of people that are in the green right now are going to be deathly in the red when they pull this thing all the way back. They take those shares before Roku really gets its opportunity to break out. And you would think $13.50 is really a breakout. Not with the amount of times that it's hit 80 on the ask. There is a huge amount of buying that's sitting back there. So forget about even 73. Just the amount of times that it hit 80, this thing needs to pull back to at least 75 from there. And it's going to. It's just a matter of if it stops. It's still an exception. It's trading 100,000 shares after noon. I mean, that just doesn't really happen anymore. So got to understand 100 is definitely around the corner, but before that corner comes, there's going to be a lot of unhappy people. It's textbook. We see this all the time. Guys, I don't care. An exception is going to come back to reality. Okay, did TLRY come back to reality after it broke out to 300? Everyone in the world could have said, oh, well, it's just going to keep going. It's just going to keep going. Or it's going to stay around 280. Well, guess what? Where's TLRY right now? So all those people that got in at 280 and 300, they're not too happy right now because they always come back to reality. All right? So remember, class will begin at 3 p.m. I'll be sending out that email for everybody kind of within the next probably 15 minutes or so. We'll talk to everyone else in the chat, and happy trading.